morning. Thank you, Adam Crouch, for speaking with Central Coast newspapers once again. Another disaster, another declared disaster zone. This is getting serious and regular.
Yeah, look, thanks, Dave. Look, it's good to be with you. And look, it's very frustrating, of course, for so many residents that have been impacted by this flood issue and this flood situation right across New South Wales, and especially here on the Central Coast. But it really does go to show the resilience of people on the Central Coast and how they bounce back very quickly.
Down to practical matters, the governments have acted very quickly this time round. They're good practice. You've got your good systems in place. The disaster recovery payments, the recovery centres. Tell us about those.
Yeah, look, thanks. Look, obviously there's a lot of support out there as we move into a recovery phase. Floods are they have a huge impact on people, both psychologically and physically. With fire, it's instant devastation, everything's gone. With floods, it's a lingering issue. And look, I'm pleased to say that the federal government has come on board with individual disaster relief recovery, in addition to what the state's providing as well. So what you've got is $1,000 payments for every eligible adult and $400 for children. Obviously, in addition to that, there's also supports for business. There's also supports for not-for-profit organisations and other clubs, etc., through the state. So there's a lot of financial support out there for people and organisations should they need it.
We're in a declared zone, but how do you know that you're eligible? How does that work?
Services of Wales have really perfected the art of servicing and looking after people, especially during times of crisis. We did it during COVID, and they've done it multiple times during flood and disaster relief. So my advice to anybody on the Central Coast, if you're not sure if you're eligible for support, just contact Service New South Wales via their website or also on 1370 788.
Now, the flood recovery centres, this is a big thing that's emerging increasingly. So where are they on the Central Coast and what's happening?
Yep, so we've got one that's open already today. It'll be open all weekend at Woodbury Park. That's going to be open from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. every day, and that will have multiple agencies there. So you'd have Services New South Wales, Services Australia and Council are all combined through Resilience New South Wales. So Resilience New South Wales are the overarching entity, and they coordinate that support. But in addition to this, as I said before, one of the best forms is actually just contacting Services New South Wales directly. But should you actually need that additional support, the other thing that's important to, as we said, with floods, is the way people react after the event. So it's important if you need support, both financially but also mentally, it's important you reach out. There are organisations like Lifeline and others who are there to talk you through and help you through the process. You are never alone. And the other thing we have also seen during the evacuations is how quick people are to want to help total strangers on the Central Coast, offering refuge, somewhere for them to stay. So in addition to what Service New South Wales and Resilience New South Wales have offered by putting people up in motels and hotels, there are complete strangers offering their beds and a warm place for someone to stay on the coast.
Well, we had the evacuation centre very active at the Diggers at the entrance, we noticed, and that seemed to have worked very well.
Look, it is indeed. Look, I've got to thank Diggers. They literally were first out of the gate, and they've done this multiple times now. And actually, it's a perfect location. We were over there a couple of days ago, and you've got a hotel right next door with a couple of motels down the road, so someone can come in, go through the supports they need, have a great feed at Diggers, but then also be accommodated as well. So again, I've got to congratulate both Diggers and also Gosford RSL, who stepped up straight away to provide that refuge for people who had to evacuate and didn't have someone they could be staying with. I've also got to thank our incredible frontline workers. Again, they get tested every time we have one of these events, and the SES are obviously the response agency for floods, and we are seeing them getting better and better and better. It's unfortunate they have to get the practical practice, but what we've seen, the Wyong SES is actually the busiest SES in the state. They've responded to, I think, more than 700 call-outs. I think they're down to the last 25 at the moment from what I'm hearing. They've done a phenomenal job working round the clock, but they've also had support from other SES volunteers. A few days ago, a group arrived from Victoria. Right. So you're seeing everybody working together to help communities that are being impacted.
It's an incredible system, but it's going to cost a lot of money, and potholes are massive. I mean, I know personally you've hit one and ruined one of your tyres. So many people on the coast have. The council I saw run around last night with this cold mix filling in the really deep potholes. So is there assistance to our council to help get roads back into shape?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's resilience funding that's available for councils to help support them in fixing those sorts of potholes. Yes, and I was the victim of one of those holes. Wet road, couldn't see it, and I've damaged my tyre. Look, it's happening right across the coast. One thing I would say to people is, again, it's a timely reminder to be vigilant, especially if the roads are still wet. Look, absolutely, council are getting support funding, resilience funding through the state government to help them address local road issues.
So it's not a resourcing problem. It's just, as in money-wise, it's just a matter of having enough people on the ground to do these things.
Yeah, look, absolutely. We encourage council to actively apply for the financial support, but when you've got over 2,000 kilometres of roads on the Central Coast, it will take time. And after the last flood events, council were doing thousands of potholes per day, but of course it's very difficult because, of course, you get to the end and we have a rain, it starts all over again. It's a bit like the painting the Harbour Bridge scenario. You get to the end and you start again. Yeah. But look, obviously, people just be vigilant on our roads. The potholes have opened up because of the volume of rain we've had. And I know that council have already started getting out there trying to fill them in as quickly as possible.
Now, one last thing. Are there any ministers and other from the New South Wales government that come up here and have a look at what's going on to get a feel of what's happening?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Look, I've just had the Minister for Families and Community Services, Natasha McLaren-Jones, at Diggers at the entrance. I mean, she was up here. Look, I'm sure the Premier will probably call past, especially given the volume of calls that the SES have done. As I said before, Warring's the busiest SES in the state. Look, absolutely. There's a lot of people on the ground. But look, my job as Parliamentary Secretary is to feed that information back to ministers, how our agencies are responding. I mean, I speak to Minister Steph Cook all the time, and look, she's always on the phone wanting to get updates, and I'm able to provide that, and that's part of my role as Parliamentary Secretary. Just in closing, David, look, as I said, I've got to thank our frontline services, our volunteers. I said they've literally been working around the clock. Look, if you see one of the guys or girls from the SES, stop and say thank you, because again, they've either walked away from their own job or given up their time with their families to keep other people safe. And whether it be them, the RFS, the VRA, who do a fantastic job, Marine Rescue Central Coast, everyone steps up during a time of crisis. And again, it's a testament to their spirit to want to help somebody else, sometimes even when their own properties are under threat. Yeah. So again, it's important we stop and say thank you to them when we get a chance.
We still have a sort of a country town feel about us, don't we, as far as that's concerned?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Adam.
No worries. Thanks, Dave.